The small research vessel drifted silently through the void. Its lone occupant, Sam Wright, checked the systems one more time before settling back in his chair. The experimental jump drive had failed spectacularly, leaving him stranded in unknown space. According to his calculations, he was at least 50 light-years from Mars colony, far beyond any charted human territory. "Control, this is Wright. Do you copy?" Sam spoke into the communication system, not expecting an answer. The same static replied that had greeted him for the past 6 hours. He sighed and ran his fingers through his short brown hair. Sam activated the emergency beacon, a last resort that would broadcast his position on all frequencies. If he was lucky, a passing ship might pick up the signal. If he was unlucky, well, he preferred not to think about that. The supply of oxygen would last another 2 weeks. The food and water would stretch for a month if he was careful. He was recording his final observations when the sensors began to chime. Something large was approaching, and fast. Sam's heart raced as he looked at the readout. Not just one object, but multiple objects, moving in a coordinated pattern that suggested intelligence. "First contact," he whispered to himself, suddenly, aware of the historical significance of the moment. "Let's hope they're friendly." The approaching vessels were unlike anything in Earth's database. They resembled massive insects, with pointed segments and protruding structures that might have been weapons. The largest was nearly a kilometer in length, dwarfing Sam's tiny research craft. A beam of blue light swept over his ship, and Sam felt a slight vibration as the unknown vessel scanned him. He raised his hands instinctively, though he knew the gesture would be meaningless to whoever was out there. "My name is Sam Wright," he said clearly into the communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies. "I am a human from the planet Earth. I come in peace." The response was immediate. His ship shuddered as an invisible force grabbed it, pulling it toward the largest alien vessel. Sam gripped the edges of his seat as his small craft was swallowed into a cavernous docking bay. Through the viewport, Sam could see dozens of tall insectoid beings moving with military precision. Their bodies were covered in a dark blue chitinous armor, and their multiple limbs ended in what looked like both tools and weapons. Most disturbing were their faces, if they could be called that, with compound eyes and clicking mandibles that moved constantly. The airlock hissed as it was forced open. Sam had seconds to grab his emergency kit before 4 of the creatures entered his ship. They stood at least 7 feet tall, their heads nearly touching the ceiling. The lead alien raised what appeared to be a scanning device, its compound eyes shifting color as it studied the human. "Hello," Sam said, keeping his voice steady despite his racing heart. Years of astronaut training had prepared him for stressful situations, though nothing quite like this. "I mean no harm." The aliens communicated with a series of clicks and whistles. One of them produced a device that began to glow, projecting symbols into the air between them. Sam couldn't understand the meaning, but the intent became clear when 2 of the creatures moved toward him. They escorted him from his ship, their grip on his arms firm but not painful. Sam noted everything as they moved through the alien vessel: the strange architecture with its curved walls and angled doorways, the constant low humming that vibrated through the floor, and most importantly, the clear military nature of everything around him. This was no scientific expedition. It was a warship. They brought him to a room with a single chair in the center. The walls were lined with devices Sam couldn't identify, but their purpose became clearer when the alien secured him to the chair and attached sensors to his temples. A new alien entered, smaller than the others but with more elaborate markings on its carapace. It approached Sam with a device that glowed with purple energy. "I'm guessing you're the doctor," Sam said, trying to keep his voice light despite his growing fear. "Just so you know, I had my appendix removed years ago." The alien placed the device against Sam's forehead. Pain shot through his skull as images flashed behind his eyes. Earth, Mars colony, the jump drive test, his family back home. They were probing his mind, extracting information. But something unexpected happened. The alien recoiled, its mandibles clicking rapidly. The device sparked and went dark. The other aliens moved forward, their postures suggesting alarm. Sam felt blood trickling from his nose, but he also felt something else, a strange resistance in his mind, as if his thoughts were pushing back against the intrusion. The lead alien spoke rapidly to the others. Sam couldn't understand the words, but the tone suggested confusion and perhaps even fear. They tried different devices, each producing the same result: failure followed by what appeared to be pain for the alien operator. Hours passed as they conducted various tests. They took blood samples, tissue samples, and scans of his brain activity. Through it all, Sam remained calm, observing their reactions and looking for any chance to communicate. During a brief moment alone, Sam discovered that his emergency beacon was still active, transmitting Earth's coordinates on a frequency the alien's sensors apparently couldn't detect. He decided not to disable it. If these aliens were hostile, Earth needed to know they existed. After what felt like days, a new alien entered the room. This one's armor was a deep red, and the others showed deference, stepping back as it approached. A leader of some kind, Sam guessed. The red-armored alien studied Sam silently for a long moment. Before speaking, to Sam's surprise, a mechanical voice translated, "You resist our methods." "Not intentionally," Sam replied. "Human minds are complicated." "You will provide information about your species," the alien commander stated. "I'm happy to tell you about humans," Sam said carefully. "We're explorers by nature, peaceful unless threatened." The commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "All species claim to be peaceful. All species lie." Over the following weeks, Sam learned about his captors, the Valkyrians, a warrior race that had conquered 12 star systems and subjugated countless species. They kept him alive because of their interest in his unusual mental resistance to their psychic probes, a trait they had never encountered before. Sam also formed an unexpected connection with a young Valkyrian scientist, assigned to study him. The alien, who Sam nicknamed Blue because of the lighter color of its carapace, seemed genuinely curious about humans beyond their military capabilities. Through their conversations, Sam learned much about Valkyrian culture and technology. He also realized that his situation was more dangerous than he had initially thought. The Valkyrians were considering an expansion into Earth's section of the galaxy, and they saw humans as a potential threat to be eliminated. What the Valkyrians didn't understand was that their captive was more resourceful than they expected. With each passing day, Sam gathered information, formed alliances, and waited for the right moment. The Valkyrians thought they had captured a helpless specimen. In reality, they had invited aboard the first scout of a species that had mastered the art of survival against all odds. And somewhere in deep space, the USS Frontier was following Sam's emergency beacon, bringing with it humanity's response to those who threatened their own. 6 months passed since Sam Wright's disappearance. On Earth, his family had mourned. At Mars colony, scientists studied the failed jump drive experiment. But in deep space, aboard Earth's newest vessel, hope remained alive. The USS Frontier cut through the darkness, its sleek hull designed for both speed and combat. On the bridge, Captain Olivia Martinez stood with her hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the main view screen. "Any change in the beacon signal, Lieutenant?" She asked. Jack Palmer, the ship's tactical officer, shook his head. His fingers moved quickly over the console as he adjusted the tracking parameters. "Still faint, Captain, but definitely Sam's emergency beacon. According to these readings, we're entering unknown territory." Olivia nodded. The Frontier had been following the weak signal for weeks, jumping through sectors no human had ever visited. Their mission was simple: find Sam Wright and bring him home. "All hands to alert status," she ordered. "We don't know what's waiting for us out there." The crew responded with practiced efficiency. Weapon systems came online, shields strengthened. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Diane Kelly pushed the experimental engines beyond their rated capacity, following the captain's standing order, to be ready for anything. The Frontier dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of an unfamiliar star system. Jack's console immediately lit up with warnings. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple large vessels at the edge of our sensor range," he reported. Their configuration doesn't match anything in our database. Olivia leaned forward. Are they approaching? Yes, ma'am, fast. Jack's voice remained steady, but his eyes widened slightly. These ships are huge, Captain. The largest is at least 5 times our size. Open a channel, Olivia ordered. All frequencies. The communications officer complied. Channel open, Captain. Olivia straightened her uniform and spoke clearly. This is Captain Olivia Martinez of the Earth vessel USS Frontier. We are on a search and rescue mission for one of our people. We come in peace, but will defend ourselves if necessary. The response came not as words, but as action. A bright pulse of energy shot from the lead alien ship racing toward the Frontier. Evasive maneuvers, Olivia shouted. The helmsman reacted instantly, but the alien weapon was too fast to dodge completely. The pulse struck the Frontier's shields and dissipated harmlessly. Jack's eyebrows rose in surprise. Their weapon appears to be a graviton pulse designed to disable propulsion systems, Captain. Our shield modifications held. Olivia allowed herself a small smile. Those modifications had been based on theoretical research, untested until now. Let's show them we're not helpless. Target their weapon systems. Precision strikes only. The Frontier's main guns powered up, releasing beams of concentrated energy that struck the alien vessel with surgical precision. On the view screen, sections of the alien ship went dark. Direct hits, Jack reported. Their forward weapons are offline. The alien fleet responded with a barrage of attacks. Missiles, energy beams, and strange projectiles that seemed to phase in and out of normal space all converged on the human ship. Point defense systems engaged, Jack called out as the Frontier's automated systems tracked and destroyed the incoming threats with uncanny accuracy. His fingers flew over the tactical console, predicting the enemy's next moves before they happened. Years spent hunting pirates in the asteroid belt had earned him the nickname Bloodhound, and those instincts served him well now. Their attack pattern is changing, he warned. They're trying to surround us. Olivia nodded. Helm, execute pattern Delta. Engineering. I need more power to the forward shields. The Frontier spun on its axis, thrusters firing in a sequence that no computer would have devised. It was a maneuver based on ancient Earth fighter jet tactics, adapted for space warfare by Olivia herself. The alien vessels, caught off guard by the unorthodox movement, collided with each other as they tried to adjust. One smaller ship exploded as the Frontier's weapons found a vulnerable spot in its hull. Captain, I'm picking up a transmission. The communications officer reported. It's weak, but it's definitely from an Earth emergency beacon. It's coming. From the largest enemy vessel? Olivia's expression hardened. Sam is on that ship. Prepare boarding parties. We're going to get him back. But before they could act, the alien fleet regrouped. 3 massive vessels moved to form a protective screen around their flagship. They're charging weapons again, Jack warned. Something different this time. Energy readings are off the charts. All power to shields, Olivia ordered. The alien weapon fired, a beam of swirling energy that seemed to distort the very fabric of space around it. It struck the Frontier's shields, which flared bright blue under the strain. Shields holding at 60%, Jack reported, surprise evident in his voice. Return fire, Olivia commanded. Target their power sources, the Frontier's main guns. Fired again, this time with a different energy signature. The beams pierced the alien shields as if they weren't there, striking the power cores of 2 enemy vessels. Explosions blossomed in the darkness of space. On board the alien flagship, chaos reigned. War Prince Kiruk, commander of the Valkyrian battle group, could not believe what he was seeing. His elite fleet, veterans of 100 conquests, was being systematically dismantled by a single enemy ship. Impossible, he hissed, his mandibles clicking in agitation. How do they know our shield frequencies? How do they anticipate our every move? A subordinate approached cautiously. War Prince, the human prisoner, has escaped. Security teams report he was last seen near the central computer core. Kiruk's compound eyes flashed red with rage. Find him and prepare the jump drives. We must retreat and warn High Command. For the first time in 3 generations, a Valkyrian battle group fled from an enemy. As they vanished into hyperspace, They left behind 3 destroyed cruisers and a damaged flagship. On the bridge of the frontier, Olivia Martinez allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before turning to her crew. Scan the debris, look for any sign of Sam or his vessel, and download every bit of data we can from their destroyed ships. I want to know who these aliens are and why they took one of our people. Jack Palmer studied his console, his expression troubled. Captain, the data we're recovering, it's like they've been at war for centuries. These aliens have conquered entire star systems, and now they know about Earth. Olivia's face grew solemn. Then we need to be ready when they come back. And they will come back. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the damaged Valkyrian flagship limped toward home. War Prince Kiruk stared at the strange data package that had appeared in their central computer system just before the battle. It contained detailed analyses of Valkyrian shield frequencies, weapon systems, and battle tactics, information no outsider should possess. The data had been uploaded by Sam Wright, who had spent 6 months not as a helpless prisoner, but as a careful observer, gathering intelligence and waiting for rescue. The Valkyrians had believed they were studying him, never realizing he was studying them more effectively. What they couldn't understand was how a species they had never encountered before could so thoroughly understand their tactics and technology. What they didn't know was that humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other, developing the art of warfare to levels the Valkyrians had never imagined. The Valkyrians thought they knew fear, the fear they instilled in conquered species, the fear that kept their empire together. They were about to learn that humans understood fear on a much deeper level. They knew how to face it, use it, and overcome it. And that made humans the most dangerous species the Valkyrians had ever encountered. The Great Hall on Kirash Prime echoed with angry voices. High Commander Dresvak stood at the center of the Valkyrian War Council, his dark green carapace reflecting the harsh light from above. Around him, the highest-ranking military leaders of the Valkyrian Empire clicked their mandibles in agitation. "Silence!" Dresvak's voice cut through the noise. The room fell quiet immediately. No one dared challenge the High Commander, who had led the Empire's forces for over 50 years. "War Prince Kiruk," he said, turning to the battle group commander, who had returned in disgrace. "Show us again what happened." Kiruk stepped forward. His once proud posture was now hunched with shame. He activated a holographic display in the center of the room. The images showed the battle from multiple angles, the human ship evading attacks that had never failed before, returning fire with weapons that somehow bypassed Valkyrian shields, and moving in patterns that defied prediction. "One ship," Dresvak said quietly. "One ship destroyed 3 of our cruisers and damaged your flagship." "They knew our shield frequencies," Kiruk replied. "They anticipated our attack patterns." "High Commander, I believe the human prisoner must have—" "The prisoner," Dresvak interrupted. "A lone specimen of a species we have never encountered before. You held him for 6 months, and in that time, he learned enough about our technology and tactics to help his people defeat our best ships." He leaned closer to Kiruk. "Does this not concern you?" Deep beneath the capital city, in the vast research complex that housed the Empire's scientific divisions, a very different conversation was taking place. Scientist Third Mevral carefully sealed the laboratory door behind her. The room was small, used for storing biological samples and not monitored by security systems. She turned to face the human sitting on a storage container. "They are looking for you everywhere, Sam Wright," she said, her translator converting her clicks and whistles into English. "The security forces have been doubled." Sam nodded. He looked tired but alert. 6 months in captivity had left him thinner, with a short beard now covering his face. "I expected that. Did you bring it?" Mevral handed him a small device similar to a tablet. "This contains all the information I could gather on our fleet deployments. Your people will find it useful if—" She hesitated. "When they come for you." "Thank you," Sam said, taking the device. "Why are you helping me, Mevral?" "You're risking everything." The young Valkyrian's head tilted, a gesture Sam had learned indicated deep thought. Her carapace, lighter blue than most of her kind, reflected the dim light of the storage room. For generations we have been taught that the Valkyrian way is the only way, she said slowly. Conquer or be conquered. Use fear to control others. But in our talks you have shown me another path. Your stories of Earth, how your people fought each other for centuries but found ways to make peace, they have made me question everything. Sam smiled slightly. Humans have a long history of warfare, it's true, but we also have a history of overcoming our worst instincts. High Command plans to dissect you tomorrow, Mevral said abruptly. They believe your brain contains some special organ that resisted our psychic probes. Sam's expression grew serious. Then we need to move up our timetable. Can you get me access to the central communications array? It is heavily guarded, Mevral replied, but there is a maintenance tunnel that bypasses most security checkpoints. I can show you the way. In the War Council, the debate had grown heated again. Strategies for dealing with the human threat were proposed and rejected. Some advocated for immediate attack with overwhelming force. Others suggested caution until more was known about this new species. High Commander, an aide interrupted, approaching Dresvac with obvious reluctance. We have detected unusual activity in the central computer network. Someone is accessing classified battle plans and transmitting data off-planet. Dresvac's compound eyes flashed. The human. Find him. Alarms blared throughout the complex. Security forces rushed through corridors and sealed off sections of the facility. But they were too late. In a small maintenance room connected to the communications array, Sam Wright finished transmitting his message. Beside him, Mevral watched nervously. Is it done? She asked. Sam nodded. My people will receive the full tactical database and coordinates for all 12 Valkyrian core worlds. He turned to her. You should go. Claim you were searching for me. They might believe you. Mevral's mandibles clicked softly. No. I have chosen my path. She handed him a small weapon. This will stun most guards. The maintenance tunnel continues to the landing bays. If we can reach a scout ship, the door slid open. 4 armed guards rushed in, weapons raised. Sam and Mevral were captured before they could react. Hours later, they stood before High Commander Dresvac himself. The vast chamber was filled with military officers and scientists, all eager to see the human who had caused so much trouble. You have accessed our most secure data, Dresvac said, his voice cold. You have transmitted it to your people. Do you deny this? Sam stood straight, despite the restraints binding his arms. I don't deny it. But I'll tell you something your pride won't let you see. Humans aren't your enemy unless you make us your enemy. And you, Dresvac turned to Mevral, a scientist of the Imperial Academy, a traitor to your species. Why? Mevral's voice was quiet but clear. I believe there is another way than conquest. The human has taught me, the human has manipulated you. Dresvac cut her off. Their kind are deceptive. They use words as weapons. Words are only weapons to those who fear ideas, Sam replied. Before Dresvac could respond, an aide rushed. High Commander, our long-range sensors have detected multiple ships entering our territory. They appeared simultaneously at 12 different points. The room erupted in confused clicks and whistles. 12 points, one for each core world of the Empire. Impossible. Show me, Dresvac ordered. The holographic display activated again. It showed human vessels, similar to the one that had defeated Kiruk's battle group, positioned near each of the Empire's most important worlds. Each ship broadcast the same message in perfect Valkyrian. Return our people, or learn the true meaning of fear. Dresvac turned to Sam, seeing him in a new light. How did your ships reach all our worlds so quickly? Our empire spans 3 sectors of space. Sam smiled slightly. The same technology that brought me here accidentally. Our jump drives don't work like your hyperspace engines. We don't need established routes. We can appear anywhere, anytime. The implications were clear. The Valkyrians' greatest strategic advantage had always been their control of hyperspace routes. They could dictate where and when battles took place. But if humans could bypass those restrictions entirely... Across the room, Mevral watched the growing unease among the military leaders. For the first time in her life, she saw something she had never expected to see. Valkyrian warriors experiencing genuine fear. "High Commander," she said, drawing everyone's attention. "The human speaks truth when he says they don't need to be our enemies. Their ways are different, but they understand something we have forgotten." "And what is that?" Dresvak asked coldly. "That true strength comes not from instilling fear in others," she replied, "but from facing your own fears." As if to emphasize her point, the holographic display updated with new information. More human ships had appeared, now numbering in the hundreds, each positioned at a strategic location throughout Valkyrian space. The Empire was surrounded, and for the first time in generations, the Valkyrian War Council found itself considering something other than attack. They were learning a new emotion, uncertainty. 2 weeks after human ships appeared throughout Valkyrian space, the conflict expanded into full-scale war. High Commander Dresvak had refused to release Sam Wright and Mevral, instead choosing to believe that humans were bluffing. It was a costly mistake. The first attack came at dawn on a Valkyrian mining colony. Human ships appeared without warning, disabled the defensive systems, and departed with both the human prisoners and 300 Valkyrian workers. Before leaving, they broadcast a message. "We have shown restraint. Your people will be returned, unharmed when ours are released. This is your final warning." Dresvak responded by ordering a massive offensive against Earth. The Valkyrian Armada, the largest military force ever assembled in the Empire's history, jumped into hyperspace with a simple mission: find the human homeworld and destroy it. Admiral Gary Nichols stood on the bridge of the EDF Protector, Earth's largest battleship. His weathered face showed no emotion as he reviewed the tactical display. Around him, crew members worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for the coming battle. "Status report," he said. Commander Lisa Boyd, his executive officer, stepped forward. "All ships in position, Admiral. The Valkyrian fleet will exit hyperspace in approximately 3 minutes. Gary nodded. A veteran of Earth's unification wars, he had been called out of retirement specifically for this conflict. His reputation for psychological warfare had made him the perfect choice to face an enemy that used fear as a weapon. "Begin Operation Shadowplay," he ordered. Throughout the sector, Earth's fleet implemented a strategy unlike anything the Valkyrians could have anticipated. Rather than forming a defensive line, the human ships began jumping in rapid, seemingly random patterns, appearing and disappearing across a vast area of space. The Valkyrian Armada emerged from hyperspace to find nothing. No enemy fleet. No clear target. Their sensors detected brief energy signatures as human ships jumped in and out of normal space, but locking weapons was impossible. On the Valkyrian flagship, War General Thex Kors slammed his armored fist against the command console. "Where are they? Find them." His tactical officer worked frantically at the controls. "The humans are using some kind of jump technology we cannot track. They appear for seconds, then vanish." "Launch the Psychic Squadron," Thex Kors ordered. "They cannot hide from our mind hunters." The Valkyrians deployed their most feared weapon, specially trained warriors who could project overwhelming terror into the minds of their enemies, paralyzing them with fear. In hundreds of previous conquests, this tactic had broken enemy morale and led to quick surrender, but the humans had prepared for this too. Lieutenant Kate Delgado led a special unit of human soldiers aboard the EDF Resilience. Selected for their unusual brain patterns that made them resistant to psychic influence, they had been training for this moment since the first contact with the Valkyrians. "Psychic attack incoming," Kate warned her team as alarms sounded throughout the ship. "Remember your training, focus on the anchor memories." The Valkyrian psychic assault hit like a wave, powerful enough to make even the resistant humans flinch. But instead of collapsing in terror, Kate and her team activated their countermeasures. Special devices based on studies of Sam Wright's brain during his captivity generated a feedback loop, reflecting the psychic energy back to its source. On the Valkyrian psychic vessels, chaos erupted as their own fear tactics rebounded upon them. Warriors who had never known fear suddenly experienced it in its purest form, amplified by the human technology. Many collapsed, their minds overwhelmed. Thexcor received the reports with growing anger and confusion. Impossible. No species has ever resisted the Mindhunters. Sir, his communications officer interrupted. The human ships are transmitting a message. The main screen activated, showing Admiral Nichols. The humans' calm demeanor was more unsettling to the Valkyrians than any show of aggression would have been. War General, Nichols said, your psychic weapons are ineffective against us. Your targeting systems cannot lock onto our ships. And now, we will demonstrate what happens when you force us to move beyond defensive measures. At that moment, the human fleet stopped its erratic jumping. Hundreds of ships appeared simultaneously, surrounding the Valkyrian armada. Before Thexcor could order an attack, the humans fired, but they didn't target the Valkyrian vessels. Instead, they launched strange devices that attached themselves to the hulls of the alien ships. Once attached, the devices began broadcasting a signal that interfered with the Valkyrian psychic communication network, the system that linked their ships and coordinated their movements. Cut off from each other, unable to implement their usual coordinated attack patterns, the Valkyrian fleet fell into disarray. Some ships fired blindly, accidentally hitting their own allies. Others attempted to retreat, only to collide with vessels behind them. Not a single Valkyrian ship was destroyed. Not a single warrior was killed, but their mighty armada was rendered completely ineffective. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Alan Foster worked frantically in his laboratory. Data from the Valkyrian systems that Sam Wright had transmitted was displayed on multiple screens around him. His focus was on one particular weapon, the Reality Warper, a device capable of altering molecular structures across vast distances. The Valkyrians had used it to destroy entire planets that resisted their rule. I think I've got it, Alan said to his assistant. The Reality Warper operates by creating a cascading quantum field. If we generate an inverse field at precisely the right frequency. He quickly transmitted his findings to Admiral Nichols. The timing was critical. Intelligence indicated that Dresvak had ordered the deployment of the Reality Warper against Earth's moon base as a demonstration of Valkyrian power. As Nichols received the data, he ordered immediate implementation. Special emitters were activated on ships positioned near the Valkyrian weapon platforms. They began generating the inverse quantum field that Alan had designed. On Kirash Prime, High Commander Dresvak watched with anticipation as the Reality Warper powered up. The weapon had never failed. Within moments, Earth's moon would begin to disintegrate at the molecular level. A clear message to these upstart humans about the true nature of Valkyrian power. The weapon fired. On viewing screens throughout the Empire, officials watched for the spectacular destruction that always followed. Nothing happened. Instead, a massive power surge raced backward through the Reality Warper system. Power grids across half the Valkyrian fleet shut down. Ships drifted helplessly. Weapons systems failed. In his private quarters, Dresvak reviewed the battle footage with growing unease. Everything about human tactics defied conventional military doctrine. They didn't try to destroy their enemy's ships, they disabled them. They didn't target population centers. They focused on military installations. And most disturbing of all, they seemed to understand Valkyrian technology and psychology better than the Valkyrians themselves. A junior officer entered with a report. High Commander, we've received word from the prisoner transport. The human Sam Wright wishes to speak with you. He says he has a proposal that could end this conflict. Dresvak's mandibles clicked slowly. Bring him to me. It is time I understood what we are truly facing. The neutral meeting ground was a small space station orbiting an uninhabited planet between Valkyrian and human territories. Both sides had agreed to come with minimal security, a gesture of good faith in these delicate negotiations. Sam Wright stood by the viewport looking out at the stars. 18 months had passed since his accidental jump into Valkyrian space. In that time, he had been a captive, an escapee, and now, surprisingly, a key figure in peace talks. Next to him stood Mevral, whose decision to help him had sparked a growing movement among her people. "They're coming," Mevral said quietly, her translator converting her clicks into English. "Both delegations have docked." Sam nodded. "Are you ready for this?" "No," she admitted. "But it must be done." The doors at opposite ends of the chamber opened simultaneously. From one side entered the human delegation: Captain Olivia Martinez, Dr. Alan Foster, Lieutenant Jack Palmer, and Diplomatic Officer Susan Chen. From the other came the Valkyrians: High Commander Dresvak, War General Thex Kor, and 2 science officials. Susan Chen stepped forward first. Though she was the smallest person in the room, her presence commanded attention. Her voice was calm and clear. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, High Commander. We believe it's time to end this conflict before more lives are lost on both sides." Dresvak's compound eyes studied each human carefully. "Your species has proven unexpected. You fight unlike any opponent we have faced in 3 centuries of conquest." "We didn't want to fight at all," Susan replied. "We still don't." Thexcor clicked his mandibles, and what the humans had learned was a gesture of disbelief. "You disabled half our fleet. You turned our psychic weapons against us. You neutralized the reality warper. These are not the actions of a peaceful species." Jack Palmer spoke up, his tactical mind analyzing the Valkyrian statement. "We could have destroyed your ships instead of disabling them. We could have killed your psychic warriors instead of simply disrupting their attack. We could have redirected your reality warper against one of your worlds instead of just preventing it from working." "What Lieutenant Palmer means," Susan continued, "is that our restraint was deliberate. We want coexistence, not conquest." Dresvak made a sound that might have been a scoff. "All species claim to want peace when they are faced with a superior force." Susan smiled and activated a small device she carried. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing images that made the Valkyrians' mandibles click in surprise. The images showed thousands of Valkyrian ships that Earth forces had disabled but not destroyed. They showed millions of Valkyrian warriors who had been captured but treated with dignity and respect. They showed planets that humans could have bombarded but had chosen only to blockade. "We could have annihilated your species," Susan said simply. "We chose not to. That's the fundamental difference between us. You use fear as a tool of control. We conquered our fear long ago, which allows us to choose restraint even when we have the power to destroy." There was silence in the room as the Valkyrians absorbed this information. Finally, Dresvak spoke. "If not conquest, then what do you propose?" Susan deactivated the holographic display and pulled out a data pad. "A treaty, one that respects the current borders of the Valkyrian Empire, but prohibits further expansion through force. One that establishes trade relations between our peoples and creates a framework for knowledge exchange." "And the species we have already conquered?" Thexcor asked. "What of them?" "They should be given the choice of independence," Sam Wright said, speaking for the first time. "Not immediately, perhaps, but over time, with guidance toward self-governance." Dresvak's eyes shifted color, a sign of intense thought among his kind. "You ask us to abandon our way of life. The Valkyrian Empire has expanded through conquest for generations." Mevral stepped forward. "High Commander, I have studied human history extensively during my time with them. For thousands of years, they too expanded through conquest. Their planet was divided into empires that fought constantly, but they evolved. They found strength in cooperation rather than dominance." Dr. Alan Foster nodded. "Our history is filled with war and conquest, but we learned, sometimes painfully, that lasting progress comes through collaboration, not subjugation." "And if we refuse these terms?" Dresvak asked. Captain Martinez, who had remained silent until now, met his gaze. "Then the war continues. But I think you've seen enough to know how it will end." Days passed as the negotiations continued. The Valkyrian delegation returned to Kiraj Prime to consult with their ruling council. The human representatives communicated with Earth's unified government. Both sides had demands and concessions. 1 month later, in the same neutral station, The treaty was signed. The document, written in both human and Valkyrian languages, established a new relationship between the species, not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals. The peace that followed was uneasy at first. Centuries of militant expansion had shaped Valkyrian society deeply. Many warriors struggled to accept the new reality, but as trade began and cultural exchanges were established, perspectives slowly shifted. Humans shared their art, music, and literature with the Valkyrians. In return, the Valkyrians taught humans about their advanced propulsion systems and their unique understanding of psychic phenomena. Both species benefited from the exchange. 5 years after the treaty signing, Sam Wright returned to Karash Prime, this time as Earth's ambassador. Walking beside him through the capital city was Mevral, now a respected leader in the growing Valkyrian reform movement. "They've changed more than I expected," Sam commented, watching young Valkyrians interacting with visitors from other species without the old patterns of dominance. "They needed to see another way," Mevral replied. "For too long we believed that strength came from making others fear us. Your people showed us that true strength comes from overcoming fear itself." In the decade that followed, the alliance between humans and Valkyrians transformed galactic politics. Other conquered species were gradually granted independence, forming their own governments with both human and Valkyrian advisors. A new council was formed based on cooperation rather than dominance. But the greatest test came 15 years after first contact. Strange signals were detected from beyond the galaxy's edge. A vast fleet of unknown origin appeared, using technology neither humans nor Valkyrians had encountered before. The new invaders transmitted a simple message across all frequencies: surrender or be destroyed. They had conquered 7 galaxies using this approach. Species either submitted immediately or fought and were annihilated. They expected the same pattern here. What they found instead was a united defense force led by Admiral Olivia Martinez and War Prince Kiruk, once enemies, now commanders of the most powerful combined fleet ever assembled. Human jump technology paired with Valkyrian battle coordination. Human psychological warfare combined with Valkyrian tactical precision. The invaders came expecting to find civilizations cowering in fear. Instead, they found species who had learned from humanity that the ultimate victory isn't conquering others, it's conquering fear itself. And as the first shots were fired in this new conflict, the invaders experienced something they had never known before: uncertainty. For the first time in their history of conquest, they began to wonder if they might fail. They were about to learn the same lesson the Valkyrians had learned years before. Those who use fear as a weapon have never truly understood its power. But humanity did. They had spent their entire history facing it, embracing it, and ultimately transcending it. In that understanding lay a strength no conquering force could ever match.